Hello and most welcome to the page. This is where we do chit-chatting. This is where we get those who matter when it comes to sports. Well, today, we're going to have a very, very frank discussion. We're talking about a project that is coming up, a very key project on the heart of the International Paralympic Committee, the IPC. It's Parasport Against the Stigma project. And Ghana is fortunate to be part of this, and Ghana will at least be part of those who start this particular project. And so I've been joined by no other person than the scribe of the Ghana National Paralympic Committee, Ghana, the General Secretary himself, Mr. Peter Adjei, is in the house, and also a consultant for the International Paralympic Committee, Sheila Cleo, is also in the house. Ladies and gentlemen, most welcome.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Let me start from those who are home. You are my visitor, so I'll give you much opportunity to talk. Peter, good to have you. Where are we now, 2021, the NPC and Parasport? What is on your calendar? What exactly are you guys up to this time around?
Thank you very much. Because of the COVID-19, the Tokyo 2020 Paralympic Games had to be rescheduled to this year. And so we are at the preparatory stages and waiting to be able to attend the games as we were last year. Currently, we have athletes who are preparing. They are in camp as we speak to still attend the series of qualification competitions that the International Paralympic Committee has rolled out to give NPCs and athletes more chance to gain entry slots to the games. We are also in touch with the normal groundwork that we do, seeking sponsorship, and also the Parasport Against Stigma project. We are still at stages and preparing to make sure that we are able to implement it successfully here in Ghana. So for the bit, that is what we've been doing.
NPC Ghana, what target do you have for this Para Games, and how many athletes are you looking out for, and how many disciplines are you looking out for that Ghana represents at this global event?
Well, so we are expecting that about 4 sports would represent Ghana in Tokyo at the Paralympic Games. That's para-athletics, para-powerlifting, para-cycling, and then, Lord willing, maybe wheelchair tennis. Currently, we have 2 para-athletics athletes who have made the qualification mark. We also have about 5 para-powerlifters who have also made the qualification mark. We also have a para-cyclist who is most likely will also compete. I say who have made the qualification mark because until June, when the Tokyo Organizing Committee confirms the qualification slots, we cannot sit here and say that they are attending the games. Though we know, so it is something like a hidden secret. You know it, but until it is confirmed in writing to you, you have to go by the narrative making the minimum qualification mark. And so we have about, I would say, we're expecting about 10 athletes to be able to participate in the name of Ghana at the games.
Okay, Sheila, let me come to you. You are a consultant for the International Paralympic Committee.
Yes.
How has COVID dealt with you guys and your global activities?
Well, to a great extent, IPC always has what is qualifiers in the lead up to the games. Most importantly, to have to move the Tokyo Games, well, still being recognized as Tokyo 2020, but having to move it to 2021. A lot of uncertainties have surrounded as to whether the games will take place. Well, as it is right now, the games will take place. But it's just having to move that, having to do what they call getting back to sport. Times in the global perspective is never really given as much significance as getting back to anything. You know, we talk about getting back to work, but people never really give it that much significance. So there's been a whole campaign towards getting back to sports. How do international federations work their way back to competitions? How do we still do qualifiers while respecting what is the COVID regulations and the safety of the people? Because at the end of the day, it's not really about implementing the games. It's more so also respecting what is happening globally and having to adjust to that. People say when we'll go back to normal. I don't think there's a going back to normal. There's just an adjustment to what the new reality is. And that is what the IPC is doing to a great extent. Trying to see if we can have vaccination for the athletes done, a coordination with the different entities to have athletes vaccinated so that they're ready for the games, the tests, the stadiums being prepared. It's a bigger, having to pump in a new investment to adjust to a new reality, as well as without disadvantaging the athletes, to make sure that they are qualified, to make sure that we do the classifications, to make sure that we still have the numbers as we would have expected had it happened if it wasn't for COVID-19. So it has hit like any other aspect of, I would say, society, economy, however you want to look at it. There has had to be adjustment that was not the norm, So, timelines, new measures, I'd say pretty much what has affected most industries.
I know for the IPC, one key thing, and you always clamor for, or you always hope that it is minimized to the barest minimum, is the term stigmatization, marginalization, looking down on people, not even respecting them because of their state. Where have you gone so far with this project and with this campaign, and how real? Maybe I'm seeing it from the Ghana angle, but you have been global. You've gone to countries. You've assessed it yourself. How real is this? How deep is this stigma issue attached to parasport?
Well, I'd like to speak, while I understand from a global perspective, you just allow me to narrow it down to the African reality. Okay. We come from a society whereby, as Africans, there's a lot of things that surround the idea behind stigma. Some say you're cursed. Some say, your parent must have done something that caused this to happen. In society, while there is the medical understanding of some of the disabilities that come about, there's still that setback of it's a curse. So there's still that neglect. You'd be surprised, the estimation by 2050 is that around 20 million people would be able to access assistive technology, or to be able to access the wheelchair and whatever. But still, we're looking at by 2050, still 90% of persons with disability will not have access, So it boils down to the policy, because if something is not embraced in society, it goes down to, when you're doing a construction of the building, do you consider someone is going to come with a wheelchair? And you see, this is the seclusion that it comes with, it's, if I don't consider that I'm setting up a government office, I need to think that everyone should be able to come here with disability, without disability. If schools are not able to have teachers who are trained to deal with children who have, it means that persons with disability are automatically neglected from the education system. If in the work environment you don't have the necessary assistive technology or the necessary accessibility, it means that persons with disability are already disadvantaged in the workspace. So the stigma may look like people looking down on, but it boils down to the bigger picture of policy. I think Ghana has done a great job in terms of having policy and in terms of rights for persons with disability. But beyond policy, what is the implementation? We say every public space must be accessible. How many are accessible? It's just a matter of, there's a mindset of the people in society, but this mindset boils down to the policy and eventually what is the reality of society. So it's a reality across Africa. I wouldn't necessarily say it's a Ghana thing. Not only in Africa, still places in South Asia, and that still stigma is a thing. So, but when people speak about stigma, I have to say they always look at it as looking down on someone. Sometimes you also have to look at it as when you pity someone, like, oh, they cannot do that. That is part of what is the biggest stigma. We don't necessarily have to look at it from a negative connotation, There's the fact that you think, oh, he cannot do this, because the pity. I normally ask people, maybe I should ask you, if a person with disability crossed the road when it clearly stated that cars were supposed to go, what would be your reaction? Would you have the same reaction as if an able-bodied person crossed?
No.
Exactly, but this is what we talk about inclusion. It's the equality of saying this is the policy, regardless of who I am or who you are. We all have an opportunity to live just as what applies to you applies to me. And for the same thing that applies to you to apply to a person with disability, it means you have to make adjustments. You have to have the ramp. You have to have the escalator. You have to have someone who does the interpretation of sign language. If you're going to read the news, you're going to these small things.
Interesting.
Yeah.
And so with this project Stigma, there's this Stigma project that you guys are championing. What exactly and where exactly do you want to send this to? Is it to our legislators? Is it to those who make policies, the government? Which people really are supposed to really understand this? Is it the athletes themselves or which people?
I think when you're looking at the Parasport Against Stigma, you must acknowledge is that it's part of a bigger AT 2030, Assistive Technology 2030 agenda, funded by the UK Aid, but being managed by the GDIH, which is the Global Disability Innovation Hub. And you cannot have a one-point approach to this. So what the Parasport Against Stigma is doing is that it has a 4-pillar approach. One is on education, one is sports development, one is research, and one is broadcast. If I could just briefly go through it. On the education pillar, what the IPC is trying to do is to train teachers on adaptive sport, whereby when you are free to take your child, whether with disability or without, and you know that the teacher is able to cater for this. So they have a toolkit that they've developed to train teachers on how to do adaptive sport in schools. On the aspect of research, so we have Lafberg University in partnership with University of Malawi, which are some of the partners on the entity, who are doing research to try to see how best to go forward in sports development for persons with disability. Trying to understand the space, how do we make sure that assistive technology gets to persons with disability? And that's on the research perspective. The other perspective of it is the sports development, whereby we are pumping capacity. And we say capacity in a sense of training coaches, identifying athletes, and just trying to see what is the best way to ensure that the sports development on ground. Before the Tokyo Games happen, you have to do the grassroots development of it. And so that's the other pillar of it. And the final pillar, which I think for me is one of the most powerful, not necessarily the most powerful of the four, but one that has a great impact, is the whole aspect of broadcast. So right now, IPC is signed with about over 24 sub-Saharan African countries, and during the Tokyo Games, there will be up to 52 minutes daily of African-focused content. And we have broadcast companies across Africa that have signed up to this. It will be a free-to-air content, and you see, when people see persons with disability in a different light, it helps to destigmatize, you know. So it's not targeting legislation, or it's trying to get a wholesome approach, whereby you have the education system, the sports sector, there's research on it, and then eventually have visibility of persons with disability in a different light from what has been sent in society.
Okay. Now, Peter, let me come back to you. So for Ghana, how crucial is this particular project?
It is very crucial. You know, to touch on even one point, I think even some of the challenges that we have here as the Paralympic fraternity is that even in the media, when they are reporting, the report is normally not right. And by not right, what I mean is that when you are talking about persons with disability and sports concerning persons with disability, there are certain terminologies that you have to use right to make what you are communicating very understandable to the people. And so even we have to engage the media in an educational way, you know, to be able to train them, and or for want of a better word, let me not say train, let me just say inform them on the right terminologies that they have to use when reporting on parasports.
From now till August, we have some days. So is there a plan by the NPC to really engage the media in Ghana to really highlight these challenges to us? What is the plan?
Okay,
And exactly what are we doing now that we're on national TV? Everybody's watching. So, project.
Last year we had quite a packed calendar that we were hoping to roll out, and then COVID came. So we are going to repeat that same calendar. As it stands now, the NPC is in plans to have its first summit, where the summit would be in 3 different kinds. It will first seek to engage all stakeholders to go through constitution, educate people on para sports, even teach athletes on the do's and don'ts, and let them understand exactly the field in which they are. And then we also have a plan of meeting and engaging the media in what I just spoke about, to take them through certain workshops that will seek to clarify certain blogs that they may have had and certain challenges that some of the media guys have when they are reporting on parasports. We also are planning to have an official launch of this Parasports Against Stigma project, where again we will engage the media and the general public and seek to answer certain questions to clarify maybe certain misunderstandings and challenges they may have.
So let me put it, because colleagues watching will be asking, so when exactly are we rolling out this particular project? Before I come to Sheila, for GS.
For the press release, we are looking at in April, between March and April, to have the press release. And then if you also know, we are still going to roll out with our preparation of athletes for the Paralympic Games, which has started this month.
I know they are in camp. I know
not all of them.
Some of the athletes are in camp.
Yes.
And it's part of the process to really prepare and stuff like that. So why do you wait till that particular time to give us the release or announce the project is starting? Because if we really want to enlighten the public, the education should start now. And one of the things you are doing is here. So when exactly do you get the rest to start talking about it and talk it right?
Yes, so that is why I said between March and April.
Okay.
And so we are hoping that if I narrow it down, maybe between the second week of March and April, we should be, and it was not just a press release, it's actually a press conference, where we will have physical engagement and speak to certain issues and questions that people may have, to be able to clarify any doubts or any misunderstandings. Again, one thing that we are still doing is still engaging with the IPC to be able to map out, and the consultant to be able to map out a clearly, a better strategy of implementation of this project, so that we can gain the maximum effect that we have intended. And so on the background, these are some of the few things that we are hoping to do. There are a lot of things. You may have heard the NPC engaging also potential sponsors, because all these things, though yes, it's purely funded by the UK aid, but you know, as an NPC, you also have to do a little to support. The fact that someone is sponsoring you doesn't mean that you leave everything on the person. And so there's a lot that we are doing on the background, and we hope that media stations like yours would give the necessary boost and support, as you have done this morning, for us to be able to sell our message well.
Now, on the international front, when are you really rolling out this project?
Well, I wouldn't say the project will be rolled out. It has been rolled out. Part of rolling out a project is also just the ground technical preparation of it. And that is what has been taking place since 2020, which includes doing needs assessments of the countries, doing a baseline analysis of where we're starting to understand where the project is going and what we're building, to have the selection of coaches that we'll be working with, which the NPC has done. So under the education pillar, we have what is the program is called Possible. Possible.
Okay.
And this is what is being used to train the teachers. But for the teachers to be trained, we had to train on ground what is the Possible educators. the IPC is trying to take an approach now whereby we don't have a foreigner trained somewhere to come and teach. So we have trained Ghanaians to be the educators for this program. So that training had to take place, and it took place in November. We had to do an assessment of those who we have trained. So as to whether the project has been rolled out, it has, but on a technical preparation perspective. From the implementation and action, that is what is supposed to now start in March. So I just have to say that the beneficiaries of this project are Ghana, Malawi, and Zambia to start with. And this is the same thing across the board for Malawi. This is the same thing across the board for Zambia, has been the preparation on ground. Another thing that I have to say is that coming in as IPC, as much as it's an international organization, one of the things you have to acknowledge is the national stakeholders. We cannot roll out this project if we do not have the support of the National Paralympic Committee, if we don't have the support of the Ministry of Sports, Ministry of Education. And I have to say, they have been forthcoming in terms of meetings and in trying to see what is needed, and hence the bigger launch to bring all the partners together, including the international partners such as Loughborough University and other representatives from the IPC, from the broadcasting. So all this has been taking place since last year. And so this year we're just getting into the process of now the implementation of all these different initiatives. They've hired a sports technical specialist who will be coming to work on ground, you know, with the coaches and, you know, the capacity building. So it has rolled out. It has rolled out.
I know time runs fast when the discussion becomes more exciting. We'll be checking out from the studio very, very soon. But Sheila, let me ask you, you've been in Ghana for a couple of weeks, days, months now. You come and even go and you come back again. On the ground, what have you seen that encourages you and makes you hopeful that this country called Ghana, plus the two that are starting the Stigma project or concept, will really yield that fruit, that thing that the IPC is looking out for?
One thing I have to say is the fact that you already have a policy that applies to persons with disability is good enough. At least you're not starting from ground zero. I also have to really, in a sense, praise without being shy about it, the leadership of the National Paralympic Committee, because when I sit down and I ask them, you know, off the record, what's your budget from government? It's XYZ. And then, but how are you doing all these other projects? We reach out to sponsors, we take it from our pockets, we do all this. For someone to do that out of their pocket, you know, for other, because we're looking at, if I look at some of the initiatives we work with Ghana National Paralympic Committee 2019, in the lead up to 2020 before COVID, which the last thing we went for was the Abuja Powerlifting, I believe. I'm looking at an investment of almost $50,000. And I know, and you know the budget that comes in without putting anyone in bad light. So it's, the books don't balance, but the activities are taking place. So for me, that is an encouragement that I'm working with a willing team. I'm working with the people who want to do it. And the athletes, I have met athletes in Ghana, the likes of Tahiru, the likes of Emmanuel Tete, or, you know, the likes of Obeng. The willingness, regardless, to say, hey, can I do this? Hey, there's this opportunity. Hi, how can I move on? To try to look for training online by yourself and try. I mean, this has been encouraging to a great extent, really. The Office of the President getting me like the necessary permits to travel, to be able to work with the countries despite, you know, all the madness that's taking place. That is a willing people, a willing government, a willing leadership, and down to the beneficiary, you know, willing athletes. So for me, that's encouraging.
Wow, interesting.
Yeah.
Peter, we're checking out from the studio. And so, with all this plan you're having, what one thing are you telling the Ghanaian populace that are watching you in terms of, one, our readiness to really go out there and participate in this upcoming Tokyo Paralympic Games, and also going out there not to be a spectator, but really a contenders in this particular championship?
I'll just urge all Ghanaians to keep on having faith in the leadership of the National Paralympic Committee and its athletes. We will not let them down. You must understand that though the several challenges that we have, especially with financing and even being able to adequately prepare athletes for major games like this, I would say we have not done bad, and we are also very hopeful that the the government through the ministry would also come to our aid, as they have done in the past. To the games, I would say we will still keep with faith with Euclid and keep raising the flag of Ghana high wherever it is we go. But you know, some of these programs are not only aimed at the Tokyo 2020 Paralympic Games. You know, the Commonwealth Games is just at the corner. In October, we are having the first ever para-powerlifting competition that will be a qualifier for the Commonwealth Games here in Accra. We have over 6 countries that will be attending, and so there are a lot of things that we want the people of Ghana, the public, to have faith in us, because we have the country at heart and we have their thinking and their wishes and hopes also at heart. We will deliver.
So hopefully one day we should see a real inclusive society where everybody assesses everything.
It is the intention. That is
irrespective of who you are, where you are.
Exactly.
Thank you very much, ladies and gentlemen.
Thank you.
Thank you very much also for doing the watching. And this has been the page. This is where we do the chit chatting. Today it was just on this particular all-important project that will be coming up. Remember that disability is not inability, and so let's treat everybody equally. Thanks very much. The page returns same time tomorrow. Bye for now.